Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I wish to all viewers, and today my name is Haizad bin Azhar, and I will talk about body defense, which is one of the subtopic from Form 4 KSSM syllabus, immunity in humans. So basically in our body we have pathogen, which is a microorganism that causes diseases. Pathogen include virus, bacteria and parasites. So our body defense system recognizes pathogens as foreign particles and also known as antigens. So antigens stimulate lymphocyte to release or produce antibodies to the blood flows to destroy the antigens, and that's how our body defense system prevent us from getting sick or from getting any diseases. Alright, we will move on to immunity. Immunity is our body abilities to fight infection caused by pathogen. When we can fight a disease, we are said to immune to that disease. And our body have 3 lines of defense: first line, second line and third line. So now I will explain to you guys about the first line of defense in our body. So this is our first line of defense. So first of all, we got lysozyme, that is found in secretion of tears, nasal mucus and saliva. It's an antimicrobial protein that can dissolve and destroy some types of bacteria. Then we have mucus that contains lysozyme that destroy bacteria found in the air that enters the respiratory system. Third, we got the blood clotting mechanism, which prevents bacteria from entering cut. Then we got hydrochloric acid in our stomach that destroys bacteria represents in food and drinks. And lastly, our skin. Our skin is tough and difficult for microorganisms to penetrate, and its continuous shedding of dead cell layers of the skin surface make it difficult for various type of mechanism to grow.
Second line of defense. The second line of defense is fever, phagocytosis, and inflammation. The mechanism of the second line defense is also not specific. So for the first one is fever. Fever is the second line of defense mechanism that fights infections. Fever increases phagocytic activities and fights against microorganisms that affect the body. Next is phagocytosis. The phagocyte is a lysocyte that can carry out phagocytosis. Neutrophils and monocytes are phagocytes. So what is phagocytosis? Phagocytosis is the process which microorganisms or other particles such as dead cells are trapped and digested by phagocytes. When an infection occurs, the phagocytes move to the infected areas and enter the tissue fluid through the pores of the capillary wall. So when a phagocyte encounters a pathogen, the phagocyte will engulf the pathogen and the lysosome in the phagocyte will digest the pathogen. So this is the example of diagram that shows the stages of phagocytosis. Phagocyte extends its pseudopodium toward the bacterium and envelopes the bacteria. Bacterial ingestion from phagosome. Phagosome combines with lysosome that secretes lysosome into phagosome. In the phagosome is destroyed by the lysosome. Phagocyte expels the remains of the digested microorganism out of the cell. Last but not least is inflammation. What is inflammation? Inflammation is the immediate response that destroys and neutralizes harmful actions of microorganisms and toxins at the early stages of infection. So the inflamed area will swell and turn red and feel painful. So here, example of diagram that shows inflammatory response. The damaged tissue releases histamine. Histamine will stimulate an immediate inflammatory response. Histamine will cause the blood capillaries to expand for more blood to flow to the infected area. The blood clotting mechanism is triggered. The phagocytes carry out phagocytosis.
Hi and Assalamualaikum, my name is Asya, and for today's video I will be talking about the third line of body defense and the action of antibodies. Hi and Assalamualaikum, my name is Asya, and for today's video I will be talking about the third line of body defense and the action of antibodies. So the next one is antibodies. Antibodies are protein that will bind with specific virus or bacteria to slow down or stop the viruses. The next one is lymph nodes, which is a small structure that works as filter for harmful substances. And the last one is macrophages. Macrophages is a specialized cell involved in detection, phagocytosis, and destruction of bacteria and other harmful substances. Move on to the explanation of the third line of body defense. The lymphocyte will form in the lymph nodes to produce antibodies. And as I've said earlier, the action of antibodies are specific. Each type of antibody can only combine with a certain type of antigen. Then, when a person is infected with pathogen, a large number of lymphocytes will accumulate in the lymph nodes to destroy the antigen and foreign particles. This will cause the lymph node to swell. The lymph node also contain macrophages, which is good as the macrophages can destroy the viruses and bacteria. Then the T lymphocytes will attack cells infected by pathogen. T lymphocyte will also stimulate B lymphocyte to produce memory cells. Then, if the same pathogen attacks, the memory cell will be stimulated to produce antibodies immediately. So, we've come to the action of antibodies. There are a few types of them, which are agglutination, neutralization, opsonization, precipitation, and lysis. So, the first one is agglutination. Agglutination is the clumping of particles. Agglutination happens when antibodies coagulate the pathogens and make them an easy target to be trapped and destroyed by phagocytes. Agglutination commonly used in blood grouping. The second one is neutralization. Neutralization happens when antibodies bind with toxin produced by bacteria and neutralize the toxin. While precipitation happens when antibodies react with dissolved antigens to form an insoluble complex that is easily destroyed by phagocytes. The next one, opsonization. Opsonization happens when antibodies combine with antigens and act as a marker for phagocytes to recognize the antigens and destroy them. And the last one, lysis, happen when antibodies combine with antigens and cause bacteria to be broken down and decompose.